Hello everybody, Raspberry Barrel here. And I know it's probably really late, but I've been scrambling to get this video together, and it just feels like no matter what I do, things are against me trying to get out any videos and stay on schedule. So I'm sorry that the Queen's biographies and the Journal 3 readings are gonna be delayed a bit. If you read my discussion section on my YouTube channel, I write messages there trying to give updates of how videos are going and stuff. And you can also check my DeviantArt for updates. I'm trying to update there more. Guess what today is, everybody? If this video is coming out on June 17th, then it is Terra's birthday. But that's not what we're here to discuss today. After a long awaited wait, we are finally here to read the biography of Destiny, Dimensional Queen, one of my Queens of Mewnis. And I know we've all been patient and waiting a long time for this, and thank you for that. And I hope I didn't hype it up too much or anything. And I hope the story doesn't disappoint you too much. I feel like it's gonna be lacking. But this is just the beginning. And now, as I said, it's been a bit of a scramble trying to get this video together. So if you hear recording that just sounds off or different, I am recording this video over multiple days, just trying to work on it wherever I can. And not all of these times were the best recording conditions. So just ignore any noises in the background and however different some recordings might sound. Please stick around to the end of the video because I have a couple more things I want to say when I'm done reading the biography. Some cool stuff and some explanations, but I can't say without spoiling the biography. So please stay to the end of the video, but I really hope you'll enjoy the biography. This is sort of like a take one for Destiny's biography. The biography is all written, set in stone, but the art and stuff I'm having some struggles with. The regular old biography format doesn't seem to quite work for me. I was having a lot of trouble, just trying to get things on the canvas, so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to stick to mostly doing the pictures. As much as I want to make cool biographies that look like jigs, it's really hard work, so I'm just going to do whatever works for me. But it doesn't change that much, so I hope you will all still like it. So this biography isn't going to look like all of my past biographies. It's really just going to be the art. I might do a couple fix-ups when I actually post the biography, but at least for this video, I think it's good enough, and I will be using my current Destiny tapestry, but I do, in the future, plan to update the tapestry. So depending on when you listen to this video, the tapestry might be updated and you can go to my DeviantArt to see that, or maybe I will redo this video eventually when everything is as perfect as I want it to be. And without further ado, I guess, let's begin. Thank you all for coming. Please forgive me if I stutter, hesitate, and mispronounce anything, and for any noises in the background. Demonic Princess Destiny would disappear for hours, and all would wonder where she'd gone using her dimensional powers. Destiny Butterfly, Dimensional Queen. Born 11:08 a.m., died 11:94 a.m., was queen 11:28 through 11:49 a.m., and 11:70 through 11:74 a.m. Married to Thomas More. Children, Neptune, Sky, Lyra, and Mars. On the night of Norvath 84th, 11:08, as the first star gleamed, and a bright purple light in the sky passed, Princess Destiny Butterfly would be born. She had blue eyes, puce hair, and purple ringed planets on her cheeks. Destiny would be the first butterfly princess to be descended from 2 demon generations in a row, making her the first 3/4 demon princess, and leaving the queen with some fears. Queen Plutoa was not knowledgeable of and was not prepared for when she was informed that her daughter was born a star queen, and also a princess of the comet. Plutoa would have no idea the power and fate her daughter held. Everyone felt it was strange that a new star queen was brought into the light, as the last one was only 3 queens ago, and another 2 queens before her. With this information brought forward, they would name these ages as the era of inconsistency, and fear what the stars were trying to tell them. Destiny was partially named after the friend of her 4th grade grandmother Terra, who held the same name. Plutoa and Berylyn were startled and astounded at their daughter's similarities to the old queen's friend, and felt it was some sort of sign. Destiny would share her first birthday celebration with her cousin Iris, and the two would spend lots of time together as their mothers raised them. The jaggy battles written about in Plutoa's biography would transpire in 1112. Fortunately, Plutoa was able to get the children and everyone in the castle to safety, with only some injured. While the battles took place, most of Mewni's residents took shelter with the spider bites in their kingdom. The battles lasted days, and unknowingly, there was a bomb hidden in the spider-bite castle the whole time. The bomb was ready to be set off at any time, but the queen was able to end the threat just in time. Once Destiny was at an age of better understanding, her mother would read her bits of the spellbook every night. The mother and daughter bonded over stories of their ancestors and adventures. As Destiny grew up, she always loved reading the book again. No matter how many times, it never got old. She especially loved her grandmother Terra's chapter due to reading the stories of her namesake. Destiny was mesmerized by the strange girl that appeared to the young queen. She shared her parents' first impressions, and felt that there must be some reason she was born in the girl's image, and that there had to be some sort of faith that she held. Plutoa would start to train Destiny in sword fighting from an early age as well. Destiny later moved up to focusing on the art of fencing. It was another activity Destiny and her mother shared together, but the queen's wants for her daughter to be prepared to protect herself sometimes drained the fun. Destiny was an optimistic, goofy kid, and Plutoa sometimes couldn't handle it and spoke out at Destiny, and told her to be more serious. Destiny would slowly start to repress her energy and emotions around her mother. One, because she knew how much work her mother was going through. And two, her mother was terrifying when she was frustrated or mad. At times when Destiny didn't feel she could talk to her mother, she went to her father and aunt. Destiny had a fine relationship with her father. They bonded together with music and other things. Berylyn also had lots of work in the kingdom though, so wasn't always around, and so Destiny spent lots of time with her aunt and uncle, considering Athena her second mother. Plutoa's adoptive mother and Berylyn's mother, Grandmother Quinn, would pass in 1118. Destiny didn't know her too well, but still mourned her loss. This was a hard time for their household, and her parents' atmosphere at the time seemed to dim Destiny's light. Time passed and the atmosphere only got worse. Almost everyone was able to get back to their normal lives, except for Plutoa. Destiny knew her mother was going through lots of hard things on top of her mom dying. She tried to comfort her mom however she could, but Plutoa wouldn't always accept it. Destiny started to worry more for her mother, and would ask if she was okay, but Plutoa would respond by yelling at her. Their mother-daughter relationship started to crumble, and Destiny would start to fear her mother. After some months, Destiny would temporarily move in with her cousins, only being told that her mom was a bit sick, and it wasn't good for them to be there. Destiny tried to have fun and enjoy her time with the rest of her family, but she couldn't help but worry and fear for her mother after seeing how she had been acting. Destiny did manage to have fun though, and her optimism seemed to be resurfacing. 4 months since she left, Destiny was allowed back home. Her uncle Adam informed Destiny, though, that her mom still wasn't doing much better, but they did all they could, and they thought that maybe seeing her family could help. Destiny heard him, but chose to hope for the best and remain optimistic. She jumped out of the carriage and through the doors to hug her mom, only to be met with a despondent expression and red stare from her mother. Destiny would step back, feeling recusant and afraid at the sight of her mom. Times had severely seemed to change compared to her childhood for Destiny. The castle and even streets of Mewni no longer seemed to gleam as they once did. Everything was quiet and alone. Plutoa's new demeanor also affected Destiny's relationship with her father, he too being affected by his wife. They rarely spent any time together. It all started to get to Destiny, and she would begin to cry, asking her mother what she could do, and Plutoa simply told her never to cry in her presence, telling her she had to be strong. Destiny's fear would reach a peak, and she would choose to conform to the dim, lifeless world, trying to see her mother as little as possible. When she was alone, she would let her thoughts out, and read the book remembering their happy times. She would also find comfort in her aunt Athena, who was extremely accepting and understanding, reaffirming Destiny's feeling of her as a second mother. The years passed and things didn't seem to look up. Destiny continued to avoid her mother, only occasionally feeling comfortable to talk to her. Destiny tried hard not to let the sadness overtake her in the years, though. She spent much of her time filling her life with stories and love and adventure. She even became very familiar with the Earth Dimensions anime and manga. Destiny would have her wand ceremony in 1123, marveled when the wand took the form of dimensional scissors. Destiny's wand. Magical High Commission member Hekapoo was very upset and spoke out about the wand taking this form, though, feeling it was wrong for anyone to bear dimensional scissors that hadn't been crafted and bestowed by her. Queen Platoa would quiet Hekapoo's concerns by telling her that the wand was a magnificent and celestial tool, and if it gave her scissors, then she earned them. Hekapoo would stop, but would still feel upset. Destiny was overjoyed with what her mom had done for her and said about her. She wanted to hug her mom and thank her so much, but when she approached, she once again looked into her mother's glare and couldn't make herself. She simply said a quiet thank you and went about the party. The bestowing of the magical scissors would be the start of when records of the princess became dim. Our meeting seemed fine, and I felt like the wand and kingdom were in good hands. Little did I know how wrong I was and what would follow. Destiny would think of her place in the universe after getting the wand. She thought about what her mom said about her and wondered if the scissors were her comet gift. She had been told she was supposedly this queen of stars and comets, but had never thought too much about it. She decided to get lessons about magic and the universe from not only me, but also Hekapoo and Omnitraxis Prime. She wanted to understand her magic and see if she could figure out what she was supposed to do. On Splenix 3rd, Destiny would have a confrontation with her mother. It's unknown what actually went down. With a saddened heart, she portaled away, looked for somewhere to get some air and joy. She found herself in a mysterious tavern, and felt it was a fine place to catch a breath. She asked the tavern worker for a drink, and sat herself down at a table feeling sad. Not much is really known about this day, but Destiny would write in her diary that a man would approach her, asking if she was all right. Was she having a hard day too? The two would talk and bond with one another. Destiny was happy to find someone that seemed to understand her troubles. With a new friendship, they would agree to meet again the next day, and Destiny would portal home, confused as to why not much time had passed. Little did Destiny know that she had just become friends with a great butterfly enemy, and this friendship would eventually start what is only referred to as Destiny's fate and mission. Destiny would return to the tavern the next day, but was confused as to why it looked different than it did the day before. She would wait, but her new friend did not arrive. She returned home, saddened at how things had turned out, but was interrupted when she saw it was daytime and not night like when she had left. She confusedly walked around, trying to figure out what was happening. Did time work differently in the tavern dimension? She continued to roam until she saw her mom sitting in the garden. Destiny was shocked, as she didn't see her mom go outside much at all. Then she became even more shocked as she saw her mom's head turn, and she was smiling. Destiny felt something in her heart burst. Even more as she looked up and saw her mom's eyes, not glowing, horrifyingly red. Destiny couldn't think. She could only cry to see the sight of her mom smiling, looking like things were before. Maybe she was back to normal. Destiny ran towards her mother, being stopped when two little children ran past her. She then saw her aunt call out, "Destiny, Iris, don't run too fast. You don't want to hurt yourselves." Destiny then stopped there, standing from the shadows, slightly realizing what had happened. She simply stared, watching her past self running around having fun, and with her mother. Destiny didn't know what was happening to her. She walked away, still not understanding what was going on, until she approached a calendar telling her it was 11:14. Destiny would stop and cry. With the pain in her heart, she was able to conjure enough power to correctly portal her way home. She walked to her room, not being able to focus on what had just happened, only on the sight of her old life, crying, wishing it had never changed. Destiny would awake the next day, wondering if it was all a dream. She went about her day, trying to ignore the thought, until she couldn't, and decided to try and test if it was real. She thought about wanting to go back earlier in the day, then opened a portal and stepped in. And when she stepped out, it had come true. Destiny, now in a much better mood, was stoked at the power she had discovered. She wondered if it was all her magic's doing, or if it had to do with the scissors. She spent the rest of the day practicing, experimenting, and theorizing, choosing not to tell anyone else about her powers yet. Upon waking the next day, Destiny would be stoked for her next adventure, and she knew just what she wanted to do. She opened the spell book and reviewed the beginning of her grandmother Terra's chapter. She focused and opened her portal, trying to stay calm, knowing she was going to witness her namesake. Destiny ran out of her portal and hid in a bush, making sure she could see the bench well. She didn't want to miss getting to see their meeting. She waited, and soon her grandmother Terra entered the garden and sat down at the bench, as the book said she did. Destiny looked in awe at her grandmother. She was so young. Destiny continued to watch, but wondered how long it would take for Destiny to appear and for the scene to play out. She began to get impatient and started moving around in the bushes, trying to get more comfortable. As she was rustling in the bushes, she heard her grandmother jump up. Destiny quickly turned around, realizing it was time, and as not to miss witnessing the moment. Destiny anxiously stared through the bush, and things began to feel more tense when she saw her grandmother aiming a charged wand right towards the bush. Destiny didn't know what to do, and feared she was messing up the time period. She thought to herself, I'll just hop up and apologize to them for messing up their meeting, then leave, and maybe I can stop myself from coming here. She could tell she was running out of time, and so jumped up out of the bush, with a furious Terra staring at her. Destiny was in shock, and couldn't remember what the plan was, and couldn't get herself to talk. The two stood quietly at one another, Destiny looking around the scene for her namesake. Where was she? Terra then ordered her to tell her who she was and why she was there. Destiny simply replied that her name was Destiny, and she couldn't quite answer all of that right away, but she was a friend. Princess Terra was intrigued by Destiny and ordered her to come to her room. When there, Destiny was tied to a chair, but told herself to remain calm. She'd fix this all later. Terra continued to question her, and Destiny tried to think of what to say and a way out, and so told her she'd tell her everything soon, but she couldn't right then. Princess Terra appeared to be doubting and suspecting Destiny, and so she assured her that she could be trusted. Destiny went on to list anything she could think of to prove that she didn't need to be taken in. Destiny might not have completely gained Terra's trust, but she intrigued her enough that Terra untied her and accepted her friendship. Destiny anxiously said goodbye to her, and then ran out the castle towards the forest, horrified at what she had done. She quickly portaled home, and tried to think to herself what she could do to fix this. Destiny may have read her grandmother's chapter dozens of times, but with her mind clouded, she couldn't remember and process what had just happened, until she saw a glow coming from the Book of Spells. She opened it, leading to the last page of Terra's chapter, where a letter she had never been able to decode was set. Destiny touched the glowing letter, and it's written that when she opened her eyes, she was in some sort of white space. After this day is when Destiny no longer left records of her life around so loosely. Not much of Princess Destiny is really known. Most of these facts about Destiny come straight from the princess herself, in her efforts to watch me and make sure I tell the truth and don't try making up some sort of fan fiction. All that's known about this day is Destiny waking up in the room, to be met with a book telling her her mission. It was at this moment it finally clicked to Destiny that she was the Destiny from the past, and she did things just as it was written she did. This book laid out everything that ever happened and would happen, and how she needed to guarantee they went the way they should. She was to follow the pages, never looking ahead. What else the book and room told her is unknown, but the princess became much more serious, and she no longer trusted me. In addition to the book, she held her own blank journal called The Fate, where she would go on to write everything she did. After discovering the room, Destiny would understand her meeting with the man, and that too was in the past. She traveled back to meet him, like they had decided, and that is when they started to discuss the plan. With her mission, and her role to play in Terra's story, Destiny was not around the castle much. She already spent so little time with her family, that now her being around even less affected some of them, including her mother. Destiny loved spending time with Terra. It was like she got to act in her favorite book. She had read these stories so many times, and now got to live them. She followed her role through, and didn't tell Terra all the answers. Most importantly, her time travel abilities, when they traveled to the past to have fun. Destiny would sit and wait for when she could go and see Terra again, always knowing when Terra was thinking and wanting to hang out with her. A curious fact is that while adventuring with Terra, Destiny would discover her bizarre love for cheese. On Grievance 18th, Destiny was to have her Song Day celebration, and she was overjoyed that her family allowed her to write her own song. She would enlist Terra in helping her and hire a personal songstrel. The time came and she got up on stage, and the crowd was perplexed and confused by her song and why she was singing about cheese and weird lines about not existing. The celebration wasn't a total disaster, but still a weird one. Pluto was mad at Destiny, who said she just wanted to be unique, but let it slide due to not causing any real harm. In Squartuck 50th, Destiny would discover another one of her abilities, to tap through timelines when she used her scissors, finding completely different worlds and ways things could have gone. This provided more adventures for Destiny and Terra, and would also be how Destiny met her first boyfriend, who she would call Harrison. Destiny would meet Harrison when she traveled to a world much like her own, but many things were swapped. She would stumble into a male counterpart of my daughter Hekapoo, who was curious about who she was and what she was doing there. And that was basically how it started. He was able to swoo her into spilling and wanted to experience it for himself. And so the two got together, and Destiny, feeling slightly weird about it, would refer to him as Harrison and nicknamed him Hunkapoo. While the two did have lots of fun and enjoyed each other, their relationship would not last long. It came to an end in Norvath that year, when Destiny's Hekapoo saw the two together and freaked out. Destiny was told she had to answer to what was going on, and she would explain some of it. The next thing she knew, Harrison was knocking it off with Hekapoo, and she was reduced to their doorman, as she was the only one who could open the portals to his world. Once the Commission knew of her power, they also had Destiny start taking even more lessons with Omnitraxis, as to not mess up the space-time. Destiny would eventually start traveling through time differently, traveling to hang with Terra for a day, and then returning to a minute before she left, better managing her time. She also would use Crescenta the Eager's sleep spell, so she could get more done. What did she have to get done, you ask? I'd love to tell, but there are too many to list, and even more that I don't know of. Whatever Destiny saw, she felt she couldn't trust many, and she didn't trust me. She enchanted her chapter in all of the books she'd write, so I would have no power to read them, and to my surprise, it worked. Some of Destiny's feats were her months fighting in the Solarian Wars, her revival of the Queen role of Keeper, and her retrieval of the Book of First Queens from the time of Skywin. Destiny went by many names, such as the Messenger, the Hooded Girl, the Byzantium Knight, and the Queen of Fates. Destiny could be found all throughout history, if you knew where to look and looked close enough. Destiny used her power to collect knowledge about the past and why and how things really happened. Destiny couldn't just share all of this knowledge at once though, and only so many would get to learn of the past butterfly secrets. Destiny set up a library where she would occasionally drop a new book that told the tales of the past. The Mewmons knew not of Destiny's powers, so to them, she was simply a historian. Destiny left her library in the hands of Toby Reeve, nephew of the military head, and a trusted friend of Destiny's. He became her assistant/apprentice, and was one of the few that Destiny shared things with. Once queen, Destiny would eventually decide to give him and his line the role of the new House of Justice. Destiny didn't just tell stories of the past. She revealed the truth and lies of the last decades, such as the truth of the years without a queen, and how the people's minds had been tampered with. And to the future princesses of Mewni, she wrote chapters about all of the supposed lies and secrets I hid from them. Destiny would greatly help her kingdom, by introducing new tales and stories, and by bringing back the brightness and joy. It is also written that Destiny conspired with the keepers of the butterfly family, butterfly queens specially selected through history to guard the kingdom's history and secrets. These queens would also aid in the mission Destiny held. Along with her mission, Destiny would also confide in Galexia the Bright about the state of her mother, and the entity she spoke of. What Destiny learned crushed her, and she wouldn't leave her room for a month, which was strange as she usually let her feelings out back in time, and then returned to the moment she left. But this time, she was present and accounted for in her room the whole time. After finally leaving her room is when Destiny historically confronted her mother and said she was going to take the role, doing whatever needed to be done to bring her mother back to sanity. This was a period of greatness, but also bleak pain from the eyes of Destiny. Destiny's 16th birthday came in 1124. Destiny had a wonderful ball, but was also pained by a problem in the back of her mind. Destiny stared at the 16 on her cake, but told herself she knew that she was older than that. Destiny didn't know how long. She had lost count, but would reveal to her aunt her truths, and that she had spent months, if not a total of a few years, traveling in between time. Athena was able to comfort Destiny, but also would ask a favor of Destiny, now knowing that her niece had this power. Destiny still struggled with her crisis of age, but decided to try and calm it by calibrating her age to her time, so no matter how long she spent in the past, she would always appear aligned with her generation. In 1126, Destiny would discover the timeline of Sylvia, where she would meet her future groom, Thomas More, Wendigo heir to the land. Destiny would first talk to him when she decided to attend a ball from the world, and the two ended up chatting. They became friends easily, and after a month of getting to know each other, Destiny asked if he would be her boyfriend. 6 months later, Destiny and Thomas's relationship progressed. Destiny, feeling more comfortable, decided to share more about herself and told Thomas she wanted to take the next step in their relationship. But did he, and would he still love her? Thomas was shocked at some of Destiny's feats, but said it didn't change their relationship and that he too was ready to move forward. With Destiny's progress with her mother and the kingdom, Queen Plutoa decided to pass the crown to her in 1128. It was a spectacle celebration, and everyone was so proud at how much Destiny had done and her natural leading abilities. In 1129, Terra would ask Destiny to be her maid of honor, and Destiny gladly accepted. Destiny looked at Terra and Nathan, shedding a tear, knowing what this love would make, and that she got to be part of this history. Destiny was also happy to witness the birth of Princess Stella, and getting to be her regular babysitter, giving Nathan and Terra much-needed breaks. She told herself it was weird staring into her great-grandmother's baby eyes, but that was her whole life. It was then a year later that Destiny proposed to Thomas at his birthday celebration. He smiled at her, saying that she was amazing, and yes, he'd be happy to be her king. The rest of the party was a hit, and everyone was overjoyed for them. Although most of the party knew, not everyone did, and Thomas and Destiny shared the news with their parents. King and Queen More questioned their son about his plan for the future. Both he and Destiny were heirs to their respective worlds, and it would be impossible and unfair to rule over both. The next 2 months would be filled with meetings of both worlds' respective councils, trying to argue why they should keep their heir, with either one partner giving up their throne or there being no marriage. Finally, having enough of it, Thomas stood up before the people of the 2 worlds, saying he had made his decision and would abdicate his throne. His parents were not happy with his decision and continued to try and convince him otherwise. But he said it was the right decision, and that they could now give the throne to his younger brother Elon, who definitely deserved it. Although not everyone left satisfied, the issue was handled, and Destiny thanked Thomas for what he did for her, and said that he looked pretty handsome doing it. The wedding of Destiny and Thomas would take place on Torix 3rd, 1131. Destiny was happy to see all of her loved ones around her. She went through so many hard times in her life, but here they were together now, happy, even if it would only last shortly. After the party was over, the newlyweds went to their new room together and stayed up very late talking and sharing stories. They would leave for a honeymoon adventure together the next day, and it's unknown where or how long they were really gone. Queen Destiny's pregnancy was announced in the beginning of 1132. Destiny was happy to hop through her portal and show off the news to Terra. Preparing for her child was some of the happiest Destiny had been in a long time. She confided in her cousins, Terra and her aunt. The whole family was working together, and Destiny treasured the years where there was no quarrels, where she could be content, and when she and her mom got to talk like they used to. Destiny would give birth to her first child, Neptune Florencia Butterfly, in Thurk 1132. She had her father's cookie hair and her mother's blue sky eyes, and she bore little water droplets on her cheeks. Destiny had her work cut out for her, but she had dreamed of this moment, of being a mother and creating a story, and she treasured it. Not too long after Neptune's birth, Destiny announced her second pregnancy. only for them to later learn it was the first pair of twins in decades. Mars and Lyra would be born in 1133, along with the birth of their second cousin, Andromeda, from Destiny's cousin Calliope. Destiny would then give birth to her final child, Sky, in 1135. Destiny and her cousins would live together for the first few years of having children, continuing to help and support each other. Destiny also continued meeting with Terra and having playdates between their kids. The following years would have been a dark silence if it weren't for Destiny and her smiling children. It would also be a mysterious year in 1141 when a young blue-haired girl popped out of one of the castle wardrobes. Everyone was shocked by this strange occurrence, but Destiny appeared quiet, calm, and welcomed the girl, Wardrobe, into her family. Queen Mother Plutoa would be murdered in 1143, throwing the kingdom into shock, all but Destiny. Her father would then pass a year later, and Destiny needed all the happiness she could get from her remaining family. In 1145, Mars, Wardrobe, and Lyra would all go to Epidaurus to partake in an education with their cousins. In 1143, it was almost time for Neptune's wand-passing ceremony. It was clear to the people that the queen had something eating at her mind, though. Although they were never sure what it really was, it would later be thought to be the goodbye between the queen and Terra. An entry from Destiny's diary hints that before they said goodbye, they wrote one last letter together, and Destiny discharged Terra from their past, promising Terra that she would see her again. Neptune's ceremony would take place, and Destiny said goodbye to her scissors and smiled at her daughter and the girl she had become. Later that year, a blizzard would strike and leave the kingdom in poor health. Destiny and Neptune would partake in a journey for the cure, which will be discussed in Neptune's biography. They were able to bring their kingdom back close to health in the end, but there were those lost, including Destiny's uncle Adam in 1147, and Destiny then had to be there to help guide her aunt out of her depression, up till her eventual death in 1149. Due to Neptune's show of responsibility and care during their years of crisis, Destiny decided to pass the crown to Neptune earlier than originally planned. Neptune was then crowned queen later in the year of 1149. Although bearing the crown, Destiny still managed most of the kingdom. Neptune had always been considered quite beautiful by all the people of the kingdom, and there were many offerings for her hand. Destiny and Thomas were shocked when in the beginning of 1150, Neptune would introduce them to her boyfriend, John Flameson. Destiny feared for her daughter, but wanted to have faith in her decisions, and so they accepted it, only reminding them to be careful. Destiny began to feel like maybe Neptune wasn't as ready as she thought to be queen, and tried to assure herself that her daughter would make the educated decision. Destiny was then horrified when Neptune would come to her towards the end of 1150 and tell her that she and John were getting married. The wedding would take place a few months later in 1151, and Destiny tried her best to stay happy and encouraging. She looked at her daughter and how much she had grown compared to that small child, and the stories she was now going to create. Destiny would then later see the marriage of her daughter Lyra and Prince Kelpbottom, Sky and Colin Reeve, and last Mars and Wardrobe by the end of 1153. Following all of these marriages, children didn't fall far behind. Neptune would give birth to baby Astrid in 1154, a granddaughter with no arms and small horns resembling Thomas's. The birth of all her grandchildren brought Destiny lots of joy. She would live to see Astrid gain flames, and some years later inherit her wand in 1168. Then sadly witness her daughter Neptune's infection and then death in 1170. Once again being there for the people when they needed her, she would reclaim the crown until Astrid was ready in 1174, and then the birth of Princess Crystal in 1175. Destiny once again found joy in helping her granddaughter with her child, and yet another story. Thomas would pass in 1186, and Destiny mourned her wonderful husband. Destiny would then die in 1194, 8 years later. Some say she didn't really die, and that her soul simply left its vessel to continue its work. She died having accomplished many things that the universe never really took notice of. Although she died, her presence can be found all throughout history and in the universe, as though she never left.
Destiny reading the Book of Spells, 11:20 a.m.
And that was the biography of Destiny Butterfly, the Dimensional Queen. I really hope you all enjoyed and you felt it was somewhat worth the wait. I have no idea what you guys were expecting, of course, but I'm thinking you might be a bit confused by some of the things that happen in this story and are wondering why they didn't get explained more, but they will. And now for the second part of news.
I'm going to be having a little Q&A thing on June 21st at 1:30 p.m. EST.
And I'll be having a Q&A where you can ask your questions and I'll be talking about things more.
I also plan during the live stream plan to do character analysis on at least my first 12 queens, go a little deeper into them because I know it takes me quite a while to get out their stories and I want to share more of them and not wait forever.
So if you can't come or you want to go ahead and drop some questions, please leave your questions in the comments and I'll be reading them during the Q&A. And I plan to later after the Q&A, if you can't come, post a video here on YouTube of it and all the questions I answered. So I really hope you guys will come. I hope it's going to be fun and a success. By the time of recording this, I am very anxious and worried about it. Things are not quite going to plan, but I still want to try to do it.
And if that time does end up having to be changed again, I've already had to change it, then just check my DeviantArt. We'll see. Hopefully everything goes well, and if you can't come, that's okay.
Thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed.
And just letting you know, there's a whole lot more to come. This is not the end. This is only the beginning.
Hope I can see you at the Q&A, or just pay attention to my art accounts and such if you want more answers about Destiny and what in the world is going on in her world. Thank you all for listening. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.